Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Celebrate Southern Africa. I'm joined this evening by June Whiteman, who is on the Isle of Man. You know, people who live on an island, it's just so much fun. Isn't an island fun, June?
It's great. Palm trees and sunshine everywhere.
Okay, so I don't know if that's the Isle of Man or if you're thinking about a Caribbean island.
I just want to remind people that the Isle of Man is pretty much halfway between Liverpool and Ireland. We get confused with the Isle of Wight, which is in a completely different place down at the bottom of England. But Isle of Man is in the middle of the Irish Sea.
So does that mean that your weather is quite changeable?
Very, very changeable. In fact, I don't think the wind, apart from today and yesterday, the wind doesn't stop blowing. It blows a lot.
So is it like living in Cape Town?
It is a bit, or like the beachfront in Durban.
Or PE. I mean, PE is the Windy City, isn't it?
The Windy City, yeah. No,
so June, tell us how you ended up on the Isle of Man, because it's a long journey from the Eastern Transvaal.
It is. Well, we were actually in Durban at the time. We had a shoe factory, and the economic crisis in South Africa affected us badly. The buyers all took their buy to China, and a number of shoe factories closed. So we did a bit of sidestepping and went into slippers for a little while, but they were also being imported from China at a merry rate, so that didn't work very well. But Martin's mother lived here, and we just thought, well, we needed a safe place to go, and we knew the island. We'd visited on a number of occasions, and it was familiar, and we have British passports, which helped. So we came over in 2001 with 2 teenage daughters, and we left the older girls in South Africa. We were then subsequently followed by Nandi, Martin's second daughter, and her family, who have subsequently moved to Italy. And then 2 years ago, 2019, our eldest, Saffron, and her family came over. So we've managed to bring them all. Some have left, so we've got Saffron and Joe on the island, and Bonnie and Nandi live in Europe. Bonnie lives in Holland, and Nandi lives in Italy.
Wow! So what about the Isle of Man is so special?
Well, I think because the infrastructure here is second to none. We have really good broadband speeds, which has been phenomenal over this time. I understand they're being improved to accommodate even more sort of working from home. But everything works, and it's all accessible. There's a wonderful bus service. There's a lovely train service from Douglas down to Port Erin in the south, which runs mainly in the summertime, but they do lovely things on the train. You can go they have special evenings where they have a dinner, and they'll take you from Douglas down to Castletown, and in that time you'll have various courses. I've not done it, but it just sounds absolutely charming. And whenever we have friends come to visit or family, it's the first thing on my list, because it's a little steam train, and it's like Thomas the Tank Engine. So we chuff off down to Port Erin and go and have a cup of something or an ice cream on the beach, and then we'll either get the train back here or get a bus back. And it's a really beautiful island, beautiful walks, wonderful mountain biking, talented people, wonderfully clever people who do beautiful things. In fact, there's a lovely website called Quirky, and a lot of the artisan makers and bakers are on there. So if you're looking for any sort of homemade, artistic, handcrafted work, that's a good place to look.
And so the native people who are born and bred on the Isle of Man, what is their accent? Is it Irish? Is it Liverpudlian? What is it?
No, it's a combination, and I can't do it, unfortunately.
Oh, well, I was hoping you'd give us a bit.
No, I'm really, no, I'm afraid my South Africanism comes.
Well, I think you do a very good South African accent, so at least you know you've got one down pat.
That's right. I'm identifiable immediately. No, so I can't do a Manx accent, but it is quite different. And there is a Manx. They're promoting speaking Manx on the island. You can have lessons. There is a little school, maybe only one or more, I'm not terribly sure, but it's a primary school at St. John's. St. John's is in the center of the island where Tynwald Hill is. And on Tynwald Hill every year, that's where the Manx Parliament sit. And if you have a look at some photographs, they've got a lovely sort of tented idea that they put at the top of the hill. All the dignitaries sit in that space. And it's a festival. That particular day that's our Manx National Day. And there is a school across the road, and they are a Manx school. They speak Manx. It's charming.
So that language, what is its roots?
Manx Gaelic, isn't it? Yeah.
Gaelic.
Gaelic. Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's fascinating. So you working at home means that you have to, if the weather's changeable, you can't really plan anything, don't you? I mean, you kind of have to go, I'll just do emails quickly and then I'll just go for a quick walk because the sun's out and it's going to go and I have to come back.
That's right. That's the plan anyway. And I find, well, that little window sometimes comes and goes, and then I just don't get outside for my walk at all. And then it's donning the coat and hat and boots and go anyway.
Go in the rain.
But just thinking about walks, Dawn, there's a walk called the Ratna Fallen, which is a walk around the perimeter of the island. It's a coastal walk.
Okay.
And Hospice at Home, every month, they do a leg of that walk, the last Sunday of every month. And on their website, they've got a lovely record of the places that they've been to. And that's on my bucket list. I want to do that. In fact, it would be Sunday, wouldn't it? Last Sunday of the month. But
yes,
we're in lockdown, so we can't do that yet. We're out of lockdown from Monday.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, good. So tell me now, when you arrived there, what were your skills, expertise? What job did you do in South Africa that you were able to then explore on the Isle of Man?
Well, I had been helping Martin with the slipper business. So I'd gone back into some sort of admin role, doing all the whatever one needs to do. But my training was as a legal secretary. And I always smile because I started, when I left school, not a clue. My entire focus was getting my matric, and then I fell off a cliff, hadn't a clue. So I knew that I had to do something where I could earn and learn. So I went nursing in Durban. That's how I know that the beachfront is windy. There's a gully up next to Addington Hospital. The wind blows constantly. So I lasted 6 months. There's a thing about blood and body excretions. Don't do those very well.
No, me neither.
Pack that in. And went back home to White River near the Kruger Park. And I think I must have done some kind of office work then. I can't remember that far back. And the following year I said, no, going teaching now, because a lot of my buddies from school had gone teaching, but I went back to Durban, should have gone to Joburg, I think, where all the rest of them were. So they might have kept me in line. That lasted 6 months. Didn't like that very much either. So bailed on that one. My mother said to me, I think you should do a secretarial course. It'll give you something to fall back on.
Very typical. You know, there's an amazing book that I think you might enjoy. It's by a lady who got to the highest rank in female in the United Nations. And she was told at school, if you type and you're a girl, you'll be fine. You'll always have a job. And she said, but I don't want to be a secretary. I don't want to be put into a box. So she said, I will never learn to type. And that's the name of her book.
How amazing.
And she said, never learn to type. And so she said to her teachers at school, I want to do Spanish. And they said, but we don't have Spanish yet. She said, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And she did it on her own. And then she became, I think, the top ranking female in the United Nations looking after South America.
Isn't that wonderful?
I love stories like that. She was just firm as a teenager. I am not going to type because you will put me in a box.
Yes, yes. And well, I'm sorry my mum didn't say, it will launch you into a...
It's complete. You know, it's amazing the power of words, June. Just that one word, launch, is very different to fall back on.
Fall back on, absolutely. Anyway, true. She was absolutely right, and it stood me in good stead. So I did learn quite a few skills along the way. Had the children, didn't work for all the about 12 years, I don't think. And then I was my eyes were open to paint techniques. Do you remember where rag rolling and sponging?
Yes.
Everything was either distressed or it was. By the
poor
time
furniture, always distressed.
it was particularly distressed. And I did that for a bit, and I really enjoyed that. Biggie Best did some.
Oh yes, Biggie. Oh, I loved that.
Oh yeah, everything was beautifully coordinated. And then then the shoe factory fell apart, and I started working with Martin. And that was quite challenging, working with buyers, with Edgar's and the likes.
And what is the challenge with working with your spouse?
That is a completely different challenge. And as he's sitting across from me, I can't say too much.
But it is, you know what, it's very difficult to put on a different hat when you have a relationship with someone, whether it's a child or a, you know, or a cousin or a, it's really quite tricky to differentiate that relationship.
It is difficult. And we found particularly, I mean, you know, the whole routine was gone because we were working together and going off to places together. Not one of us was there to pick up kids from school. So that was a big thing. And we'd be late and they'd be sitting there looking at us and say, oh, you know, why did you bother?
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Oh man, it was heartbreaking. But and also drawing the line as to when to stop.
Yeah,
particularly when the girls were at boarding school, then it was a case of, you know, you really did have to have a little alarm to say, okay, Chayuli time now, time to stop.
Yeah, that is a massive challenge. But those were all skills that put you really in a fantastic position to explore new options when you immigrated.
You're absolutely right, Dawn. I felt quite confident that I would find something quite easily, and I did. There were just odd temporary admin posts, but they all worked out, and I learned little things from each one. So you keep building your skill set. We decided shortly after we arrived that we were going to find premises for a ceramic studio.
What made you do that? Because that's something completely different. Is that from the throwback from the painting?
I think Martin and Bonnie painted quite a lot. She'd been given a project, a school project. She was at Epworth, and they had to find a supplier of ceramic bisque, buy all the bits and pieces, the glazes and the brushes and things, and paint it, then and have it glazed. So they had to get the whole process done. And we had a lovely outlet very close to us in Hillcrest called Devonshire Moon. And you could go and buy everything, do it all, and then they would glaze and fire for you. So Martin got hooked into this quite quickly with his artistic talent, and the two of them would paint lovely things. And when we came over here, it was very difficult. Martin found it, you know, there were just no shoe design opportunities. It wasn't necessarily something that he wanted to do again anyway, but it was quite tricky. So we were all sitting in the car on Douglas Head, which is very much, it's the top of Douglas. It's a lovely hill that sort of flanks the bay. We were all up there one day having lunch in the car, and simultaneously we said, the three of us, let's open a ceramic studio. And we looked into it. We found some information on the internet, found a company called Country Love, went and did a course with them, and then came back, a one-day course, came back, and then we had to find premises. And we looked, well, we weren't sure what we were looking for, because then when Clay Cafe started, there was a cafe. So it was a tea room or a coffee shop with the pottery alongside.
Yeah.
And there was just nowhere here that fitted that kind of spec. And we so very nearly went into premises that would have been absolutely fatal. But fortunately, one of our friends said, saw an ad in the paper, they're lovely premises in Silverdale Glen, which is in the south of the island. Go and have a look. And we did. Martin came down during the week and had a look. And it was springtime, it was April, and the daffodils were out. And it was like absolutely fantastic, because it was a family venue. Everybody went to Silverdale either to walk their dogs, and there was a tea room above. So it kind of, the
perfect.
whole synergy worked really well. And we were there for 18 years. We opened in the May of 2002. And sorry, 15 years we were there. And yeah, we were there for many, many happy years. Then when we looked at selling the studio, we moved to Castletown. And
So, but that meant you would have met basically the whole island.
honestly, Dawn, I was working during the week as a secretary, and Martin was running the studio. So he was just meeting people. And in fact, in those days, we opened 7 days a week. And so I'd help over the weekends. And we met wonderful people and so many South Africans. Then we realized just what a big population of South Africans there are on the Isle of Man. That's just grown. Yeah, it has. It's grown over the years, but it's been an interesting one that's, why in the middle of the Irish Sea should so many people come?
Do you think it's birds of a feather? So people, when they're looking at somewhere to go, they might go, well, where do you think? And they go, well, we're here. You might as well come and join us here. And maybe, or I think it's birds of a feather tend to want to go together, don't they?
I agree. And I think because it is such a safe place, it's beautiful. It's quite tricky to get here in terms of there's no direct link from.
Well, you can on a jet ski.
You can. Only once.
So just for those who are watching, recently there was a real problem during the coronavirus. There was a young lad who decided he was going to get a jet ski from Liverpool, wasn't it?
No, from Scotland.
From Scotland. And he was going to go and visit his girlfriend on the Isle of Man during lockdown and coronavirus and all that stuff. And then he walked for miles and miles to her house, and then they went out for a meal, and the lad got caught and put in prison.
He did. And he's been sent home and told not to come back.
Wow. So behave yourselves if you're visiting the Isle of Man. They're very mean.
Just don't come in lockdown and try and avoid all the border controls. I mean, that's why we've been so lucky here in terms of, lucky, that's why it's been so well managed, that we have been able to isolate from the rest of the world.
Well, an island is it's easier, isn't it? An island is a little bit easier to control. Yeah. But you've now ended up in a job that's basically all virtual. And that must have been a bit of a leap, because things are so different. They change all the time. There's so much more to learn. And you now run a business called Virtually There. So tell us a bit about how you ended up being in a virtual world, because that's scary, especially for people who think, oh, I'm not really great at tech.
Well, Dawn, I didn't even think too far ahead. Martin suggested that I look into being a virtual assistant. I was going to a PA conference in London, and he said, well, just ask the question, what's involved? And I did. And through that connection, I was put in touch with Amanda Johnson of Virtual Assistant Coaching and Training. Had a long chat to Amanda, and she explained it all. And it just gave me then a framework and the groundwork and somebody to fall back on, somebody to help me, somebody to underpin
that word. Your mother really got to you, June.
She did. I've been thinking about it a lot recently. She was so doing the course it just gave me the confidence, I think, that I needed, because when I told people at work that's what I was going to do, the eyebrow shot up as if to say, oh yeah, how are you going to make that work? And anyway, how we are now 5 years down the line, and it's working very well.
What I often find with virtual assistants is that they all have a special area of expertise. So how do you find that area of expertise? Is it generally just what your clients ask you to do, and then you kind of research and learn, or do you promote yourself as I am good at A, B, and C?
I think what's become apparent is that I enjoy diary management. It's very hands-on, so the time of the day is prescribed.
Yeah.
But it also gives me the opportunity to talk to people and to build relationships. And I think that's very big for me. I think that is my strength. I like to talk. I just like to connect, and it's proved really good. So I've been very fortunate in that, and that for my little client base, that's essentially what I do for them. And it, of course, there are branches left and right. I am scared of tech, so I do lean quite heavily on my associate network, as you well know. And that's tremendous. And that is key. Having an associate network is key, because there are so many hours in the day, and you cannot, even if you work 24, you would never get through everything. So it's important to be able to farm things out and pass things on and delegate.
And also understand, I think, what your own strengths are, and know that instead of trying to figure it out, there's a way someone else might be able to do it, or someone will be able to advise you.
Absolutely. And you know, all the hours that you can spend trying to work it out, give it to somebody who'll get it done in half the time, quarter of the time, and without the stress, because that's the other thing, is that, you know, you're busy and you're trying to learn new things, and it's hard. So
I remember listening to somebody once who said, you know, if there's a job that you outsource to somebody and you pay, I don't know, let's just make up a number, I don't know, so it's £100 for that hour's worth of skill, and they do it in 10 minutes, and then you get annoyed. You're like, what? I've paid for 10 minutes and I've given you all that money. When actually you're not paying for the 10 minutes. You're paying for their knowledge and experience for them to be able to do it in 10 minutes.
How true.
Because in that time, it would have taken you 5 hours to do, but they've got knowledge, experience, and they've worked out now exactly how to do it. So you're not paying for their time, you're paying for their knowledge and expertise.
Absolutely. And I think that has become apparent too, with charging virtual assistants, charging by the hour. It's become quite difficult. It's much easier to present yourself as a package.
Okay.
I can do all of this for you for X amount, rather than, you know, trying to scrabble with hours. It's because you give so much more. You know, there is so much value, and it's not just the hours you work. It's all the other components that make you good at what you do.
And do you think that you have to be really disciplined to be able to work virtually like that? Because, you know, we joke about, oh, the sun is out, I need to go for a walk. But I mean, you have to kind of be able to, like you say, you know, when you were working with Martin as well, have the boundaries and be able to say, I'm no longer available now. I have to stop for the day, or I'm now taking my lunch and I know it's late or it's early, but I have to do that.
Yeah.
Do you have to be disciplined?
You do have to be disciplined, but I also think you just need to keep your clients in the loop, particularly if they're expecting you to be at your desk. Then if you're not going to be there, just let them know that you're not going to be there. So at least they're not worrying, well, why isn't she answering? And you can go off and do what you need to do. But yeah, the boundaries are important. And I just think that you build that into the relationship building with your clients, so that you do meet their expectations and they know what you're doing is. They don't really mind when you do it, particularly if it's not within the sort of prescribed time. Just get the job done, essentially, is all they're wanting. So
yeah. So what do you now do for fun when you are not working? You go for walks, but what other kind of hobbies and skills and stuff do you do outside of sitting in front of a computer and working virtually?
Oh gosh, Dawn, through the summer we were very blessed. We live on a beautiful estate, really. It's like a National Trust garden, and the owner of the property put 3 golf holes in on the lawn across the little lane from us. So that's what we did it was just after lockdown. And I mean, we had beautiful weather. Martin and I haven't played golf since South Africa days. So we still got the clubs, we've got all the kit, but you talked about sort of being unpredictable weather. We just found it so difficult here we only had a little window of opportunity because of the studio to go out and then get rained on. There was just no joy in that. So we hadn't played golf for ages, but suddenly we had the opportunity to play right there, and it didn't cost us anything and we didn't have to go very far. So we went out every day and had a couple of hours on the golf course every day.
So are you now like the champ, the Isle of Man champ, golf ladies champ?
No, definitely not. Martin's just reminded me we've got electric bikes. So we did in the summer. In fact, last year we didn't do very much, but the year before we did a lot of cycling. We played golf last year. That's why we didn't cycle, but
So it looks like
beautiful.
you have a theme every year. So it was cycling the one summer, then it was golf the next. So what is this summer?
I think we're going to get back to cycling this summer for sure. Yeah.
But you also enjoy your garden, June. Tell us a
Oh,
bit about what you love in your garden.
Dawn, that's my happy place. So a couple of years ago, I was just paging through a magazine and there was this wonderful article about cut flowers. And I did a bit of research and it turned out that there was a Facebook page called Flowers from the Farm. And there's this whole movement, British flowers, growing British flowers and trying to stop the imports of flowers from Holland and all over the world, but just to cut down on air miles and the chemicals and all the stuff that goes into keeping flowers fresh. And so I started on my little patch and I wasn't very good, but I did get a few blooms. Last year I had wonderful sweet peas. And this year I'm going to try some more things. And that's the retirement plan.
Well, you should do it. You know, the nice thing is that when you can grow something, it's so satisfying. But also if it's cut flowers, it just makes the house so happy and lively, doesn't it?
It honestly, Dawn, every day I would bring armfuls of flowers in, and it just arranging them, you know, that is mindfulness right there. Just putting things in and looking at it and thinking, hey, I did that. That's pretty good. And it does. It smells beautiful, and it gets me out of the house, and it makes me nurture something else, which is
move as well.
Move. Very important,
because it's very easy to sit at a computer and lose track of time in a day.
No, it's true. Very true.
So tell me, what is the best thing about living on the Isle of Man?
I think everything is accessible. It's a really comfortable, safe environment. I mean, this morning the moon was out and I went for a walk whilst it was still dark. And I just thought, you know, where? Not a thought about anything, just put your coat on, go for a quick walk. And you people leave their front doors. I shouldn't actually say too much.
Yeah, anyone who's keen on stealing anything, please go to the Isle of Man.
Years ago, we did at Christmas time. People were being burgled left, right, and centre. And I don't know if they ever found out who was doing it, but I think that they were off island. They had to be off island people. But it's wonderfully safe. The people are lovely. It's beautiful.
Are they accepting of people moving in from outside? Because that sometimes it causes a bit of friction.
Very. I was expecting them to not be when we arrived, but I was very pleasantly surprised. And you know, they didn't bat an eyelid. It wasn't a case of, you know, who are you, what you're doing here. It was quite accepting. In fact, almost disinterested. Another one. There's another one that's just arrived.
Another one with that bloody accent. So June, tell me how people can get hold of you if they're interested in finding out more about, because I know people will be watching and thinking, especially now, maybe people have lost a job and they think, I've got a couple of skills that I don't feel tech, but I might be able to support other people. How can they go about kind of getting involved in virtual work?
Okay. Well, please contact me if you are interested. I'm on LinkedIn. My website's under construction, so best is to get hold of me on LinkedIn. And we can just have a chat and see what you'd like to do. And I can refer you to Amanda. She's wonderful. Yeah, let's grow the virtual network.
Well, I think that more than ever is going to be desperately needed. And then there's one last question about when someone has a little business and they're starting to feel a bit overwhelmed, at what point do you tell them is now a good time to start thinking about outsourcing certain elements of their business?
Yeah, Dawn, I think when you find yourself thinking about that one thing and it's like an earworm and you can't sleep and you keep worrying about it, that's the time. Give it to somebody else. They can do it better than you can, quicker than you can, and you can focus on what's important and the money-making stuff. You know, that all drains your energy. Pass it on to somebody else.
No, I agree with you. Totally agree with you. June, it has been absolutely lovely to chat, and I am thrilled that I got to learn more about the Isle of Man. I'm so coming on holiday, and I I want to, can you grow gem squash in your garden as well, please?
You can. I've discovered that one's better to grow them in a greenhouse. I had little golf ball gem squashes last year, but definitely going to have better ones this year.
So when should we plant the gem squash then?
I think it's around March time.
Okay.
But inside. Okay. Plant them inside.
Okay, shame. They are African after all. I mean, they'll be a bit chilly out there.
They will be chilly. Keep the bottom warm and they should be fine.
Oh, I like a warm bottom. Well, June, thank you very much. And I do hope that you have a lovely summer and that you're going cycling and you're enjoying being out there. And it's always lovely to chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dawn. Thanks very much. Bye for now.